Hey guys, it's me Cosmic, and today we're going to talk about the topic of age gating, as well as should minors be a part of the furry fandom? Now, the answer is pretty obvious. It's straight up yes, but for the sake of this video, let's go ahead and pretend like that question is actually, worth asking. Now, today we will also be talking about this tweet right here, and again, the topic in general. Now, something that should be mentioned is that this is most likely bait. And if it is bait, it's a pretty successful one. Credit where credit is due, it is a pretty successful bait. It got a lot of interaction. So if it is an interaction bait, congratulations, it actually worked pretty well for you. Unfortunately, a lot of people now think you're a dickhead for it, but, that's a different story. So this also brings us to the question of what even is age gating. Age gating, in the simplest of terms, is restricting a user's access to something if they are under a certain age. And this is a good thing when it is applied accordingly. For example, videos that have a lot of blood, gore, or pornography in it, obviously they should be age gated because kids are not exactly, prepared for that kind of stuff. Now, you already know, well, if you have watched my previous videos, then you already know that when it comes to NSFW subjects such as that, almost always made sure to remind the viewer, which I am doing again, the furry fandom has never been a 100%, listen carefully there, a 100% only sexual thing. It has never been that. It has had multiple aspects to it since day one, which does include NSFW, but it was not the only one. And it still applies here. Obviously, the NSFW part, that does need to be age restricted for, well, obvious reasons. If you need me to explain to you why getting a child hooked up on pornography early on is a bad thing, I can't help you with those issues, friends. You need a psychiatric evaluation.
You need psychiatric evaluation!
Yeah, that's not something I can help you with. But the point is, when it comes to things like that, of course, it must be age-gated. Definitely. Which I am fully aware that, unfortunately, it's kind of like that situation with a certain funny orange website where, are you 18 plus or older? And then my 16-year-old ass said yes. I am 24 years old, by the way. I'm not 16. I meant that as in back when I was 16. And still watched it. I understand that curiosity can lead anyone to do anything, but still, this is not an excuse. We have to be careful about this and make sure that minors are nowhere near that kind of stuff. Because again, they're not ready. They are at a very chaotic and very unpredictable time of their lives. We don't know what kind of effects it will have on them. For some of them, maybe they will forget about it the next day. For some of them, maybe they will end up traumatized by it. You just can't guarantee either of that reactions. So it's better to just keep them away from it altogether until they reach 18, they are an adult, and thus, they are their own kings. They can go ahead and do whatever the hell they want. There is a significant chunk of the fandom that truly does see this fandom as nothing more than a sexual thing. And they are very open about it, which, listen, I understand that you're taking pride in who you are, which is commendable, but I still believe that it's better to keep things tidy and in your room, not out in the public. Then again, that just might be me, Don't get me wrong, I'm just as freaky as most of you motherfuckers are. The difference is that I do that shit in the bedroom, not outdoors. I prefer it that way. And they can be weakened by it. A lot of people forget that a lot of people that have a addiction to pornography, which, yes, it is a thing, you can get addicted to positive and negative things. An addiction to pornography, it usually starts off fairly young. Now, this may sound a bit odd, but keep in mind, I myself almost ended up with a porn addiction back when I was 16, and when I first started gaining access to pornography. I almost got addicted to it myself, hence why I know it can be very, very, easy to get addicted to it. To a certain extent, within the furry fandom, there already is one. Unfortunately, it is not enforced that well. However, as time goes by, we will end up with, most likely, a decent amount of both all ages inclusive, as well as 18 plus only furry conventions. Now, for individuals with Twitter syndrome, let me go on a side tangent real quick, which I I want to know, is Twitter syndrome an actual mental illness that has been diagnosed yet, that has been accepted? Because it should be. If I ever end up in the field of biology in a professional manner, I'm going to try and get Twitter syndrome become an official terminology and like officially worldwide recognized mental disability that is developed. It's not something you're born with. You develop it if you're addicted to Twitter. Which, I'm not saying that if you have a Twitter account, no, because pretty much everybody has a Twitter account, but not everybody is actually addicted to it. If you spend more than like 10 hours of your day on Twitter, then I think you are becoming more and more likely to end up with fucking Twitter syndrome. But regardless, that is a different topic for a different day. You need to understand that people with Twitter syndrome have this issue of thinking that you can only have one and you can never have the other, which, no, that's not how it works, mate. If you have more than a handful, you can always have two options rather than one. Which brings me to my point. You may remember that in, I believe, Vegas, there is a furry convention that became 18 plus only, which I was actually pretty happy about because, well, one, Vegas is not exactly a family-friendly area. What is Vegas known for? Gambling. It's not exactly a child-safe area. So, making the furry convention in that location 18 plus only, it just makes sense. Now, there were a decent chunk of actually good arguments that were put out on that bait post that I do believe deserve to be talked about. For example, which is kink and fetish gear being allowed in furry conventions being the main reason why it is not safe for children. And I do agree to it. I do agree. The only thing where it's a little bit iffy about that is certain equipment is not necessarily sexual in nature. I know this sounds very weird, but like at the same time, think of it like this. Pop masks, they are a kink thing. However, if you were to modify a pup hood and you were to modify it so much, at some point it no longer becomes a pup hood now, does it? It becomes something entirely different if you modify it enough, add to it enough. So it's one of those questions where it becomes very individual thing, where have you personally modified that pup hood to the point where it is no longer truly a pup hood and it's something entirely different. But that's a bit of a complicated subject that deserves its own video eventually. But and also this is something that I noticed in American fur cons. Here in Europe, in European fur cons, we do have a lot of rules. You can't be wearing fetish and kink gear all out in the open unless it is a area where it is designated for it. And everybody knows, and everybody has confirmed that there are no minors in said location. And you need to understand that there are a lot of furries that joined back when they were minors, and thanks to their joining to the furry fandom, not only did they find a way to express their creative sides, upgrade their creative capabilities, make friends, make acquaintances, learn things about themselves and others, and so on and so forth. So, point is, within the furry fandom, as long as you make sure to age gate the NSFW parts, minors can actually benefit from being in the furry fandom. If they wish to be in the furry fandom, of course. Which is why you should not, in my opinion, you should not completely age gate them from the fandom in its entirety. But you should age gate them from the NSFW parts, as well as teach them internet safety etiquette and internet usage etiquette as well. I don't know what happened to that. I guess that it just disappeared for some reason, or parents are no longer good enough. I'm guessing. I don't fucking know. But back in my day, this was actually quite common. Parents and schools used to teach us internet safety etiquette so that we were careful about the NSFW sites and did not get ourselves in too much trouble. which eventually I'll make a video about internet safety etiquette because, again, it seems to be something that has been forgotten about, but it is important. So eventually I'll make a video about that. But aside from that, aside from everything I just said, the other thing that I would like to add is that you should have both a all ages inclusive furry convention that does not have any NSFW aspects to it so that minors can also attend it and enjoy it if they wish to, but you should also have an 18 plus only, or in the case of the US, depending on your state of course, 21 plus only furry convention as well for the adults. Furry conventions do not have to be only one. You can have two types of them. One that is for adults to do adult things, and one that is for all ages to just come in and have some wholesome fun. You do not have to be restricted to only one of those. But yeah, obviously this topic is going to be more complicated, but because I don't want to overwhelm you with just a shit ton of information, I'm just going to go ahead and simplify it here, and I'll see you again later some other time. Goodbye.